What is going on, YouTube? Parker the Basshead here. In the last video, we completely tore out my system from the Sequoia. It was an awesome system, guys. But hey, had to go, gotta move on to something else. So in this video, we're gonna be throwing the seats back in, and then we're gonna be hooking up my big 160 amp lithium cells for mounting all my amps, figuring all that out. Don't know what I'm gonna do yet, y'all. So come along, let's get this done. It is an absolute disaster in my garage, guys. We got stuff everywhere from just pulling everything out for the system. So we got to get all this cleaned up, got to figure out what we're going to do. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to throw the seats back in. A big part of doing this was so I could get my back seats back just for everyday driving. So we're going to throw those in first because I kind of need those to be in there. So that way I put everything else in just to make sure it works with that. So let's do that. Seats are in. Now this is what I'm kind of thinking. Looks like it'll fit. Of course, I have my big lithium cells here. We'll then have my wall here. We're only gonna need 1 amp for subs, so this should be room. Of course, gonna mount my JP amp over on that side. Maybe put my 8K or maybe put my 12K back over on this side. Guys, that is really looking like the best option here. So I think that's what we're gonna do. Wall is mounted. Got my positive that runs up to my battery up front and the alternator. That is hooked up, ready to go. So we gotta slide the big old lithium bank back in here and get all that hooked up. All right, this is a start. Big old battery, all hooked up. Got it ran so I can start my car and all that good stuff. Of course, got the Down for Sound amp hooked up. Did have to hook it up upside down, but that's okay. Of course, we'll clean everything up, but this way, at least, for now, everything will work. I can figure out what amp I'm gonna mount here, and then we'll go from there. Seats fold up just perfectly. And we got all this room for activities. For my mids and highs, at the moment, I, of course, have that JP amp in there. It has been awesome. I've got no complaints about it. But Tar Amps sent me a couple amps to review for y'all. So we're going to take a quick look at them. And then I want y'all to let me know which one of these amps you want me to try out in the Sequoia to see how it does. So let's get into these. First off, we've got the all-new TS800X4. Now, I had the old, I think it was, I don't know if it was a TS or a DS800X4. So kind of neat to see this little guy. This is definitely a lot smaller than that amp was. Let's open this thing up for y'all. Again, this is way smaller than the last one that I had. almost fits in my hand completely. Of course, we have the nice white finish as opposed to the silver. There's our inputs and our controls. And it's kind of neat. We have low and high level inputs. Now, the old one had the kind of old style connectors, the little plate that screws down over the wires. This, of course, has got this style, which in my opinion is just much, much nicer and cleaner. Really excited about this, y'all. I don't know, I think it'd be cool to see how good this little tiny amp does. Let me know. Next up, we've got a much, much bigger 4-channel amp. Let's open up this thing. Look at how just absolutely massive this guy is. Of course, get wires for your high-level inputs. Take a look at this. Of course, this is the DS 4000.4. Yes, look at that. Once again, is huge. I'm used to guitar amps being tiny. But hey, if you need a massive, massive amp, a 4-channel amp, this guy, I suppose, has you covered. At least it better. Okay, we, of course, have our inputs, our adjustments. It's really basically the exact same thing we have on this amp. The one thing I do wish these had would be Tiffany-style RCA connectors. On this side, this looks to be 4 or 2 gauge inputs over here. Maybe if you bought cheaper 0 gauge, it would fit in there. Definitely would not fit sky-high wire, though. Then we have our outputs. Let me know, guys, which do you think I should hook up in there and test out? Now, of course, this is a 4,000 watt amp with 4 channels, so 1,000 watts per channel. I just gotta say, that is an absolute insane amount of power to be pushing it to your speakers, but pretty cool. This guy, on the other hand, of course, 800 RMS amplifier, so of course, 200 times 4. Still plenty of power, in my opinion, for most systems out there. But this thing being so tiny, you can fit it almost anywhere, which I love. So I definitely want to test this guy out too. I also got to give Guitar Amps a huge shout out for sending me both of these amps. Very, very cool that they reached out to me directly and just said, they didn't even say I had to make a video with them. They just said they wanted me to look them over, see what I thought, and test them out. So, hey guys, that's what we're gonna do. Next up, gotta hook up a sub amp in the Sequoia. Now, super exciting, guys. I've actually got the biggest amp I've ever had on the channel coming in here soon. So we'll be hooking that up in there once it is here. That being said, it's not here yet, and I would love to have some bass in the Sequoia here for the next few days until it shows up. So let's see, we could hook up the 12K, but don't really need that much power yet. So probably hook up one of these 8Ks. I've got the wires all ran, fuse boxes hooked up and everything. Might as well, guys. All right, guys, this is just makeshift run until, of course, I get my new amp that we're putting in here. Obviously, if I was doing this permanently, I'd cut all these wires shorter, really clean it up, but don't want to do that until I get the new amp in here and figure out exactly what I'm gonna need. But we've got all this hooked up. Got a little relay right here. If I have multiple amps or something, I'm powering off this one wire. Having a relay really helps reduce that bump you'll often get when you turn your car on and off when you have multiple amps hooked up off the same wire. So all good there. Glad to have this hooked up. I got these two 12-inch DefBont subs. Let's just throw them in there just to test this thing out, make sure it's good to go, and that way I'll have some bump to and from work the next couple days until the new amp comes in and all that. Yes, these subs are upside down. This guy's in my truck. I have this box flipped up on its back the other way, but don't worry about it. All right, We're gonna turn this guy on. And the tar amps is on, guys. Well, guys, quite the transformation from that to that, but that's okay. Nice to have my back seats back, and this means we can go back to doing awesome reviews in this Sequoia, so that is perfect. Definitely stay tuned. I don't know if it'll be the next video or a couple videos away, but stay tuned for the massive amp that we're going to be putting back there, and of course, stay tuned for reviews on the 4-channel amps as well. We'll see what they can do. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Remember, as always, keep bassing on.